The 9 to 5 Faith Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with my friend Tanya. Tanya, can you say hello to everyone listening?
Hello, what's going on, guys?
How's it going?
It's fantabulous.
Good. So can you tell our audience just a little bit about you right off the jump?
Yeah, sure. My name is Tanya Tenica. I have been in business and ministry for over 20 years. And I equip, train, and unite a lot of what you would call, we call them fivefold, but you can look at it as leaders in the industry, whether they're mentors, whether they're coaches, ministry leaders, whatever that looks like. So I help them understand, get clear, become productive, and so that way they can see the results and take action.
Oh, that's awesome. And how long have you been doing that?
It's been over 20 years.
And how did you fall into that? Did you decide to do it, or was there a journey path that you just decided to take?
I don't think I've heard anybody that actually is in a level of influence leadership say, yes, I jumped right in because of all that comes with it. Essentially, my high school sweetheart, we got married, and we had our first son. And then I got pregnant with my daughter. And the day that I got pregnant, he came home from work, and I was actually able to tell him we're pregnant. And at that point, I never saw him again. He got killed in a hit and run motorcycle accident. And at that point, it's like I became psychologically unemployable. And I saw how the job treated me, and how all that journey and the unrealistic ability to heal in a lot of areas before I went back to work. And so I started doing photography because I was like, I wanted more memories and I didn't get enough pictures. And photography was something I'm such a creative and I'm really good at. So it just snowballed. And then lo and behold, how God works. A lady came to me from a networking company or networking place. It was like BNI. And she's like, I would really love to sit with you. And I'm like, okay. And I'm an activator. So I don't just speak on certain things. I actually show you how to get it done.
Right.
And so she's like, I'd really, really love to speak with you. And I said, okay. So we had lunch, and lunch became another lunch with 3 more women, and then 15 men and women. And then it grew and grew. And I was like, there might be something here. And I started meeting with them monthly and training them, and then having them come up and start coaching them through some areas biblically, because I got to see the word of God. I always see it through business and biblical and building.
Mm-hmm.
And then lo and behold, it just never stopped.
Wow. That's awesome. It just
grew.
Now, I actually if you're comfortable talking about it, you said something and I'm like, ooh, I want to dig into that more of you said I was psychologically unemployable, which I totally understand what you mean by that. But thinking of people who are going through that as the employee side and the employer side,
okay,
what is something that would have made that more manageable or easier to navigate from your perspective of someone who might be going through either a tragic death like you did, or even something that they feel psychologically unemployable?
What do you mean? How they can identify that, or if they identify that, how could they jump out, or?
Yeah, if they wanted to work through it and stay in the workforce, or rather if you want to talk about it from an employer perspective of like what could employers do to help kind of ease that burden and to help
Yeah.
their employees better navigate like a tragedy like that.
So what I've realized, God has blessed me to be able to see through Ephesians 4, that there are different functions, there's different profiles. One of the things we see the apostle, prophet, evangelist, teacher, pastor, but what we don't also see in there that we also have in general, we have what? The deacons and we have the elders. Well, what does that look like in the workforce? Well, you have those, I would say the elders would be the entrepreneurs.
Mm.
So if you want to stay in the workforce, you want to stay where you, one, agree with the vision, and that you can be able to come and collaborate, and that employer honors your beautiful creative brain and all of the attributes and the way that you want to distribute that, right? And so that would be like, you have an employee and they love that. I'd say, oh my gosh, do you like marketing? Do you like communications? Do you like this? I want to make you the director of this, because I know that your brain, you don't want to actually, you're still entrepreneurial, but you don't want to actually be the entrepreneur. You
Yeah.
want to be able to come along, still have all the benefits, but not take on some of those things. You could be multimillionaire as an employee just the same.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on where your employer caps you out. So what I would probably say is look at a company, somebody who is in business that is in an area that you absolutely love. You want to start to follow them. You want to start to do that and make sure that they're making, I'm going to say anywhere between 250 to 500K. You really want them in a different space, and start going there and saying, hey, this is what I'm looking at, because you have to yield to your creative brain. You have to yield to the fact that you want structure because there is a safety in there, but that you want that, you like that, but you don't want to have the structure of prison. You
Mm-hmm.
want to know that you could and piece together this and, reestablish and say, okay, I'm going to take down this wall, and I'm not going to take away the prime part of piece, but I want to add, and I want to make the living room more spacious.
Right.
You want to be able to have that. So that's honestly, that's what I would say. You want to collaborate and be wherever you are, that's going to help you do that. So let's just say you're even working for Geico. Well, if you are just taking calls, that's not really where you're going to be. Well, see if you can get into the marketing department. See if you can, explore and do something that would be more creative. So it's really just yielding to how you operate. If you're
Yeah.
evangelistic, you're going to want to be on the communications. So then climb up the communications ladder.
Yeah.
Make sense? And give them the innovative ideas, but just make sure that they're not going to cap you out, which is why I essentially say you can rub elbows a little bit more with someone other than Geico, because you can only go, right? You can't like say, hey, what's up, Geico owner,
Right.
founder? It's not going to necessarily work.
Right.
So hopefully that answered that question. It's really
Yeah.
just being where you are,
Yeah.
and that you're entrepreneurial, but it doesn't mean you have to own a business.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot, because honestly, that is a little bit of like where I fall, because I have many a side hustles, but I also work very full time, and work for a different company, but I have those elements that might not get fulfilled in my job, but I found other creative outlets to be able to kind of foster my strengths. So nail on the head, right on.
Good.
So talk about kind of what your day-to-day looks like, and how you incorporate like your time with God, your time with a community, your time with church in the midst of a crazy work schedule.
Oh. So for me, I don't separate them.
Hmm.
That's number one.
Yeah.
A lot of times what we do is we separate God, relationship, and everything from what we do. So, and I'm not religious with it. So for instance, if I wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm feeling I need to go work out, I'll go work out.
Right.
I'm not going to freak out because I didn't read 3 scriptures and chant 5 things. And it's just not what I'm going to do.
Right.
But I'm always acknowledging God. So what I got to do in my life was always acknowledge his presence and be in gratitude for his presence. So while I'm working out, believe it or not, I'm like, Father God, I thank you. I am mighty. I am strong. Oh my gosh, you know what? I just want to, but I'm going to put this first. I know I can do this, God. I know I can put my health first. You have so much for me, and I'm literally, this is how I'm talking to God in my workout.
Right.
So it's like, we think that we have to be like right here with a pen and paper in this zone, in this little prison.
Right.
No, it's not that. There's times that I'm like, I incorporate going for a walk. I just keep my phone off and I literally just talk to God on the way. I'll be in silence and I'll just be like, Lord, just speak to me. Just pour out your love. And I just want to acknowledge who you are right now. And I'm grateful for everything. So what I've done is I've incorporated him in everything I do. I don't care if I'm washing the dishes, I'm talking to the Lord or praying in the spirit.
Yeah.
I'm doing a marketing campaign. God, would you put this here? I don't know. Does this even sound right? Okay, let me read it again. Like, what's your thought process on that? And literally, Holy Spirit will just like change this. I'm like, oh my God, great idea. Why didn't I think about that? I'm literally talking to God like this my whole way.
Right.
The whole way.
I love it.
I don't just pick up my Bible and flip and then just say, what am I going to read? I'm like, Father God, what do you have to speak to me to, or what's going, or where are we at? What do I need to heal from? What is this looking like? And then I go find what that looks like. Community, I'll be honest, community. And I incorporate rest, a lot of rest. I'm a creative person, so I change my environment a lot. I know that I need to get out of my environment of sitting at a desk in order for me to be creative and in order for me to be present. I need to have rest and family time, alone time, self-care. I need to feel good, look sexy. Like I need that in order to really be present for anyone.
Yeah.
And even present for myself. And so when it comes down to that's like the rest. So I don't get caught up with a lot of the volunteering at church and community stuff because it is always there. So I'm not going to convict myself. I'm a wealth builder and I know my place. And so I am actually more effective in certain areas than to be volunteering. I have gotten into that place where I worked almost 80 to 60, 80 hours in a week. Okay. Volunteering, doing all that while my family went to crap. My marriage was going to crap. My business was pretty much non-existent. My lights being shut off, my kids not being paid, and nothing happened from it. It's not like I was supported or helped.
Yeah.
So I would say be careful because I don't want you prostituted either.
Yeah.
So if there's something that you're gifted in and your heart is like, oh my gosh, and you want to do that every other week or something, go for it.
Yeah.
If you know that you're supposed to be in the church, that's a different thing. I get it, but
right. Yeah. And I think you hit on something too of like, going to where your strengths are. If you do feel like you're kind of limited for bandwidth, because like one thing that I do is like, I volunteer in, my church's like production crew, but I monitor their social media live streams. But I do social media for work. So for me, it's like not a huge like leap to take that next step and just like, hey, like, yeah, sure. I'll sit, I'll watch some streams for a few hours, a couple weekends a month. And that'll be there.
How do you, this is the key.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've fulfilled something for God and you're excited to do it because you're like, it's like an extension. You really already love what you do.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, God, I'm doing it for the kingdom. And you feel refreshed. It's not like
right.
You just want to like
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're pulled every which way and guilted into that. Not trying to speak badly.
Right.
But I think that if we could stay in this place that's going to stay, God is always going to rejuvenate and fill. And yeah, he's going to stretch us and things will be uncomfortable and we'll go into those places that are a little bit uncomfy. But you'll have the grace for it. That's how even if you don't want to do it, you'll be graced for it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think one other thing that you hit on, and I'm curious because I think looking into like the Bible, you see this kind of theme reflected, and I'm like curious if it's going to come out in my conversations because so far with the women, I haven't talked to any men yet on this podcast, but with the women, they just say, yeah, I incorporate God into my like every day and I don't have to, set aside specific time. And as I work through, which like is a theme in the Bible where you see the women just kind of going about their day and encountering Jesus, where the men, they always have to retreat. And so I'm really curious when you're like, oh yeah, I just go to the gym and I just pray to God. I'm like, yes, like absolutely. But I'm curious to see like in future conversations with the men, if like they're like, no, I have to like lock myself away to like be able to spend that time with God.
Well, you see that I think this is also the beauty of how God made men and women.
Yeah.
And women, because we are responsible in that home and we have if you're really, let's just even look at the Proverbs 31 woman, because she's an entrepreneur. Right. And so you can tell she cooks, she cleans, she made her husband's name great. And she, sewed her kids' clothes and all that. And it was seasonal. So ladies, don't go trying to do all that at one time. But, then you look at it and the men, yes, they always went away because they're very focused. They have to be very focused. They have to pull distractions. Women can have a lot of different distractions naturally around. And I wouldn't say it's multitasking, but we can have little things around us and we can zone things out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I think it just really just attributes to how God speaks differently to men and women and how we are created.
Yeah.
Which is actually, it's great, because it doesn't mean that I don't need to retreat either to go away.
Yeah.
It just means that, I've learned to adapt.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find for myself, if I want a lot of like depth and insight and wisdom, I do have to retreat because I'm a little bit like shiny object syndrome. But my everyday encountering and relationship with God does look like incorporating him into like like I work out to like worship music, like straight up worship music. My sister works out to Christmas music, like that's her, and I work out to right, and I work out to worship music. And so I think it's kind of interesting to see like just the different facets that it does show up for men and women.
Yeah, just do what works for you.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be really honest. I like to expose you to new things, but I would rather you find your own thing.
Yeah.
Of what works for you.
Yeah. Well, and if something doesn't work for someone, they're not going to keep up with it. Right? Like that's what we're talking about working out. That's diet mentality 101. If you don't like something and it's not working for you, you're less likely to keep up with it than something that you do like and something that is fitting into your lifestyle and your workflow and all of that good stuff.
Unless, and I've seen this happen, where you're this like people pleaser. And you are trying to fit into this cookie cutter, or that this is a road to success. And so you just want to make sure that you follow that thing. And so it's like, that this is what needs to be done. That's why I tell her, I'm like, okay, if I give you like these different steps, still do them, but modify them to see what works for you, right? If your time is in the evening, okay, fine. I'm not gonna like shoot you because of it. You know what I mean? Like it's like, like I know some like want to be a part of that 5 a.m. club and be able to grow in that area. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But that doesn't mean wake up 5 a.m. your first day. That means set your alarm clock 10 minutes a little earlier.
Right.
Every 3-4 days. And then eventually in the next 3 months, you're going to get there. It's like,
Right. It's a give and
Start
take.
off small. Yeah, it's like, do what works for you. Like,
Yeah. I also think too, and this is like completely a little bit of a side topic, but I think that when you're saying like, oh, when I work out and when I, just go on walks with God, I just keep thinking like, that we're driven in a very like image-based society, and like how people perceive us, and how we're perceived. I think of like social media just because that's what I do all day, of like,
right.
what if people were just like, I'm like bent over, like heaving at the gym, dripping in sweat, and I'm like worshiping God, like hashtag blessed. Like, what if that was the experience versus like I'm in church and like the lights are dim and my hands are raised? Like, what if it looks like me dying on the gym floor instead of like in a church worshiping?
Yeah. I love it. I like it. I like
Yeah,
the idea.
I
I
like
think,
the idea too. It should definitely
listen,
be a thing.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I've had those moments. I've had those moments.
Yeah,
Like, I have this lake right behind, or this pond right behind, and I've had those moments where
yeah,
I just sat there and I was about to go for a speaking engagement. And so I always take about 24 hours to 48 hours before the engagement and then after the engagement to completely like draw away.
mhm.
And I literally was like snot dripping, you know, those ones that come up in there.
The-
I mean, it was, and then all of that, I was doing the whole gamut. Okay. I was not cute. And I'm outside on the park bench, you know, outside, but I couldn't control what that looked like. And
right,
when the Lord hit me, it's not like, hey, can you come back later? Because I don't want to,
right,
not look cute while I'm outside. Like, it's just,
right.
I think when it really came down to it and God showed me the walk is going to just be between him and I. People
Yeah,
are going to come and go. There's going to be people you think you're going to be in your life forever, and they were in there for a season. I stopped caring about what that looked like, and just, if anything was left behind, it would be just the pure genuineness of who I am.
yeah. I love that. I love that. So you work with ministry leaders, but is there anything that you see, like, I mean, I'm curious of like your clients, but also yourself, of like, what is some of the biggest struggles that you see when it comes to practicing faith in like everyday life?
Um, I'm so I work with, yes, I work with ministry leaders and entrepreneurs the same. I'm going to say incorporating God.
Hmm.
And I know this sounds crazy because you're
Yeah,
just like, dude, you're a minister, like, hello. Um, we've been taught, I think a lot of times in church, we've been spoken at,
mhm,
and we haven't actually been shown how to activate and apply these principles into our lives and what this actually looks like. And so you'll see, and I say ministry leaders and entrepreneurs is the same, because you still have bills to pay. Okay. You still
right.
have to market. You still have to, you're still hiring people. This is what we're looking at. And they don't know how to incorporate. They're taking principles that they learned, but it's like, that's not biblical. That's a Babylonian system, my love. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you marketing this way? Why does your sales look like this? Why does this look like that? And they've really just copied, they're like who they are, but they've copied false systems that are not going to work. They're not either biblical, they're manipulative. So that's been big. They don't
Yeah,
incorporate, it's like there's no partnership with God. The which then now breeds into um every believer who feels like they're going to run a business feels like they need to have to speak to believers. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not the case. You can still have, I just started teaching believers 4 years
right.
ago.
Okay.
4 years ago. All the other years out of the 20, I was teaching non-believers. Now you would see
Mhm.
believers be like, what you're saying sounds like this scripture. I'm like, hey,
Right.
lo and behold, it is.
Yeah.
And so they would see the like, I would describe marketing like, okay, here's your outer, your inner, and like that holy place. And they had no idea that I was equipped, right?
Right.
So there's foundational things. So a lot of them are distracted thinking that when they build a business, that they have to build it and they're not going to glorify God if they're covert.
Mm.
They feel like they have to be overt. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, sometimes God wants you to penetrate some spheres of influence.
Yeah.
So I really have to say the biggest issue that I see is being able to incorporate God into your business and the biblical principles. When I say incorporate God, I mean partnering with him, asking him, is this the direction? And not getting caught up in, when you get a coach, a lot of times we're like, yeah, I just got this coach. I'm like, yeah, but they're mastering Facebook and you're called to Instagram. What is this going to do for you?
Right.
Right. Or like you get an evangelistic coach and then it's just like, and you're really like apostolic builder and it's like, it's not helping you at all because they don't understand you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would have to say. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of understanding in that.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I look at some of like the businesses who we now know are, Jesus loving businesses, such as like Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A, right? Like those are two of like the big ones. And they don't sell Christianity, right? Like their ministry is not to be over in that way, but it's things like having a really good workforce at Chick-fil-A. They're known for their kindness. They're closed on Sunday to respect employees. Either way you want to look at it, they respect employees' time off, or they're respecting the Sabbath. But it doesn't have to be, we're not selling Jesus isn't carved into the chicken sandwiches. Like,
yeah, like I think that when people say, hey, you know what, I have a Christian business, I'm like, what is that? Like, what is a Christian business? You have a Christian owner who reflects Christianity or the principles, whatever within, but there is not a Christian business. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
A business cannot be Christian. A Christian is a physical being. Like it's a, so when we're looking at that aspect, and I think that's really this disconnect here.
Yeah.
And then, you have those that are so used to the ministry aspect where everything has to be free. And everything has to be this. And then all of a sudden now I'm prostituting God because I'm charging for consultation or this or that. I'm not charging you for prayer. I'm not charging you for a prophetic word. I'm not charging you for that. I'm charging you for the wisdom, understanding. It just so happens that in my consultations, I'm going to give you some prophetic words. Okay. It just so happens that these things are going to happen and I'm going to.
Yeah. Also, this is another like out there Christian company that like people don't really realize, In-N-Out. If you're a West Coaster,
are they really? They are
so right. Okay.
Like perfect.
You wouldn't think of it, but you flip the little fry container on the bottom, there's Bible verses. You look underneath the cup, there's Bible verses.
Get out. I never
Where do
that.
you? Yeah. Or on the bags.
So then it's holy. We're not going to gain weight. We can go to In-N-Out anytime.
Doesn't count. Those are holy calories.
Those are holy calories. Those are holy calories. Oh my gosh, I did not know that. I love that though.
So it's those little touches that can show up and demonstrate faith, where you don't have to be selling prayer, for example.
Now I'm going to go like into In-N-Out and I'm going to be looking for all these scriptures.
So if anyone's listening to this and they're on like the West Coast and have access to an In-N-Out, this is your justification to go get In-N-Out and go prove my my assertion true.
I love it.
So I want to circle back on one thing that you said of like, sales and marketing practices specifically, because I feel like that those are mostly the most public, or like forward facing practices that can be manipulative and that can be kind of unethical, and unbiblical. If we have listeners listening to this and they're like, well, two parts of that question. One, how do I know that I'm involved in, practices that might be, less than savory? And also like, what can I do about it? Like, I just work for a company and this is how they taught me to sell. what can I do about that?
Yeah. So you're going to want to test every spirit, right? And we look at it from that perspective. So let's just say I'm giving you this, I'm selling you this product. And in the end, how do you feel? You know that you feel some kind of way when you're not only giving and selling the product, but then you're making your people feel a certain way too.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking at it like fear-based marketing, right? That manipulation, the gate is closing, this, and then you look back 3 days later and the price never went up. They lied. Okay. And then, you know, the door did not close. And then all of a sudden, you know, afterwards, it's like, you know, a week into the program, oh, they reopened the gate for their last people. I'm like, dude, that is so manipulative, right?
Yeah.
But manipulation, that's a form of witchcraft. And so this is a worldly system. But if God is one that it's by the goodness of God that people get called on to repentance, that God is the foundation of your business, if he is, you're operating in love. Foundation.
Yeah.
So my marketing is going to be different. It's not going to be all this fear-based that's going to make you actually activate a spirit of fear or pass on a spirit of fear, or any of that, right? It's actually going to make you feel hopeful. It's going to make you feel amazing. It's going to make you feel connected. It's going to make you feel like, oh my gosh, familiar, like, okay, this is good, right? So we're talking about all of the positive things, right? So it's not like, oh my gosh, are you constantly stuck in this and constantly can't get out of this? That's all fear-based. That's all drawn off of the woe is me victim mentality. Think about it, guys.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's all victim. You're teaching and confirming and affirming a victim mentality. Right? But if you're like, you know, get excited to spend time with your family, go on the trips that you want to be able to go on, learn how to be more productive and get your message to the four corners of the earth. Now that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
Because now I can see that you're going to come with me and collaborate and push things forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing that is kind of maybe not hit on as much in the corporate world is like providing a good or service to actually better your customer or your client, and not just create like a line item or like check, I hit my sales numbers for the week, but like actually wanting to like provide them some relief. And I think that starts with producing a product or a service that is actually helping people.
I can agree with that. And I think it's also having individuals that, so you have to be convicted by that product. Like, oh my gosh, this is a great product. And, you know, hopefully use it, because that's kind of weird if you're selling something you're not using. But I think the other thing is to make sure you have the right people there. So if you look at the evangelistic model, whether they're commissioned as an evangelist or they have that edge, I call it, they're good at sales. They're good at connecting. They're good at drawing people in. They're good at building enough relationship to be trusted enough to then resource them.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you'll find that those that operate in different functions, right? They might be more creative, a builder, which is reference to an apostle or a prophet, more detail oriented, like a teacher. So you'll have these different things, right? And we've like forced them to learn sales. So they're like grueling and dying over it instead of helping them understand sales in their way that will help them, right? Adapt it into their natural speech. I realized when I would sell, it would be in my live streams. I could close like 10K, 15K in a live stream. And I knew that when it was, if it was a live event or live in general, like that was it. It's my anointing to put everything happen. So for me to do these one-on-one calls with everybody to try to do closing would be grueling. I wasn't at my highest point of activation. I think it also matters knowing how you operate, how God created you to function,
Yeah.
and being okay with that. It's absolutely beautiful, and you have a place.
Yeah, man. I think that last part that you said of like operating like within yourself and like within your capabilities, I feel like we try to force ourselves to be like a one trick or an all trick pony, where it's like we can do, what is it, master master of none. What's the first part of that? The
Jack of all trades, master of none.
there you go. Jack of all trades, master of none in our culture, because just because of everything that is going on. And really, like, we can, I love to reference this quote because I feel like it not only like spiritually but like culturally it's like really appropriate and fitting. But it's you can't be anything you want to be. You can only be more of what you already are.
I do like, okay, so I love this quote, and I love
Yeah.
what you just said.
Yeah.
I like that. Can I share my part?
Yes, absolutely. Push back on
Okay.
it.
This quote jacked me up for years. Because when you speak to a creative, remember, you would say that to a Proverbs 31 woman, and you read that scripture and you'd be like, dag, she's a jack of all trades. She needs to just master one thing. Here's the key. We try to master everything all at the same time.
Yeah.
So I remember my mentor, this is actually how I got in. My mentor said to me, you're a jack of all trades and a master of none. Do you know that shook me? I actually closed off the areas of that God, I would start, I would finish, I wouldn't finish, I would self-sabotage. It wrecked me until one day I went to go teach that. And I had no conviction on it. It was so detrimental to my growth. And he said, can you go read that again? And I literally like heard, and I was like, I'm going to go, okay, let me go look at the script, this phrase again.
Yeah.
And the actual phrase was, a jack of all trades, but a master of none is oftentimes better than a master of one. And what that showed me was that there are some individuals that are going to master different things in their life. And because I mastered different things in different parts of my journey, I am able to be the most versatile midwife to entrepreneurs and ministry leaders, because I have been around the block in many areas and I'm able to see, and it actually makes me a better builder.
Yeah.
But I love what you're saying, because there's that part too.
Yeah.
Where, just stay within your zone.
Yeah.
Of that zone of genius, but you can explore other areas to see if you can bring additional skill set or elevate that or bring a different mastery. But don't dive so deep into something that the minute that you feel that it's stressful and it's not what it is, that we tend to just continue on.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example of like very recently where I saw that in my life. It, like, I love to cook. I am proud to be a millennial who can cook really well, because we have a really bad rap for just going to get like takeout all the time. I love to cook and I love to be in the kitchen, and I'm, on my own health journey. And it just got to the point where cooking my healthy meals every week was so draining.
Really?
So like emotionally, like I was just like, no, like I'd rather not eat than go in the kitchen and cook. And
wow, really? So you went from loving cooking to then
yeah. And it like took away this huge piece of joy. And I was really wrestling with it one day, and I was talking with my husband, and he's like, well, like, can't you like pay someone to do that? And I was like, yeah, but like I can do it. Like I can cook. Like, why would I go pay someone to like make me some grilled chicken when I can do it? And he's like, because it's stressing you out and it's like taking away this joy you had in your life. And that was like a really big point of like, just because I can do something doesn't mean that I am meant to do it in that
I love
regard.
men. They're so like, they're like, well, duh, like this is, but you know what? In your brain, it's so interesting because like, it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened? It could be like, this one lady I had followed years ago, and a similar situation. And she was just like, she said the first thing she did with the money that she had, which changed my life, instead of putting into marketing, advertising, whatever,
Right.
she put it into a chef that would make her the 5 meals a week. And they did all the vegan, they did her whole health thing. And all she had to do was pop it in the oven. They froze it for her. And in that time, that hour and a half, 2 hours, 5 hours of from grocery shopping, prep, and all that out of the week, she spent with her sons.
Yeah.
And it was common sense for her. And it was like, well, that was not common sense. You want to know why? Because a wife cooks and she cleans and she does this and she does that. Bro, you gonna eat, okay? Whether I go get it delivered or whether not. We'll leave our big family dinners for Sunday and you can eat all of my cooking. But
Yeah.
So I love how your husband said that.
Yeah, he was just like, but like what? Like he's so pragmatic. He's like the pragmatic soul to my heart. But it was just like, why wouldn't you like if this is stressing you out, like this is something. And I was like, but I can do it. And like by me, in my head, by me like accepting like someone else cooking for me, that was me admitting that like that was my weakness and that like I couldn't do it. But I was like, no, it's not that. It's that this is like something that is outside of my zone of like where my focus is right now. And guess what? Now I'm cooking more than ever, new foods that I've never tried and that are delicious. So now I have lunches taken care of for the week because I work from home. My lunches are taken care of and I have energy at the end of the day to like go make some like pork steamed bao buns. And guess what? They're delicious.
Heck yeah, this is great.
So
that's what I'm saying. Like you were like, okay, it's not fun for me. Can I do it? But I want it to be fun again. So what can I do? Well, when you went and hired somebody to do the dinners or whatever, it actually released you back into having fun.
Yeah. And I feel like with entrepreneurs and people who are working, they like kind of get stuck in this mentality of like, but I can do it. But like that's not where my zone of genius, that's something I said was used a lot at my old job. Like, where's your zone of genius? Like where is it? There's a book called I haven't read it yet, but the premise is like your blue flame of like where's the hottest part of like on a matchstick, the blue flame, the part in the very middle where it's the hottest. Where's your blue flame? And that's what I always think of, like, oh, okay, this isn't in my blue flame. I need to go do something else.
And be totally okay with it.
Yeah.
But that's where we have to relinquish all of these status quos and other things. What works for you and your family is not going to work from others, but your husband is still the head of your home. It's kind of like, let's grow with this.
Yes. And also like one thing that was like a really big mantra for me in the past few years is like two things can be true at once. Like I can be a really good cook and I can also outsource my meals. Like both those things are true. And
that's stewardship.
Yeah.
That's showing that you are mature enough to have to just like your stewardship. Like I remember when I would get individuals to come and clean my home. And I have like high fans and all that stuff. And it's just like, well, I'm a woman. I'm supposed to be doing that. That's my duties. That's like, and it would, and I was like, no. It started taking away from my femininity because I started like, I was stressed all the time and it's just like, no, I could be there. While somebody's cleaning, I could go practice basketball with my son. Or I could do, I could be more present. That's actually just stewardship.
Yeah.
I feel guilty because we're stewarding our family and what works.
Yeah. And also like I think that when we acknowledge those things, like we're not getting them for free, right? Like we're also paying and providing business service for all the other businesses that are out there that we're utilizing.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like we're okay, God's giving us this wealth transference and all that, and then now we feel guilty. Yeah. Because we're using these things to simplify our life so we could multiply our presence and be more omni, like they call it now, omni marketing, where you're kind of like on all the, like you're a little bit everywhere all at once and all that. And it's like, okay,
omni-channel. Yeah.
it's like that omni. And I'm just like, I look at it as I could be more. If I hire certain individuals to do certain things, not that I'm not capable, but I have more ability now to free myself, steward my health, my time, my life way better. And I can actually show up even more than that 100% for not only my family, but for my students or those that, are connected to me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's like one of the things that I've really been like noodling on and having these conversations for this podcast. And like God is giving us the opportunity in our work life so like our purpose might not be within our work life. Our purpose might be what our work life allows us to have outside of our work life. That might be the blessing. That might be the ministry. That might be the purpose, is outside of what we do every day. Not to say that he can't work in what we do every day, but that might not be the sole inclination of why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, he might be saying, hey, you're working your job, you're doing whichever, and I want you to take that and I want you to bless this organization.
Right.
There's all different types of things. We have domestic violence and foster care and human trafficking. We have all these things. It could be a part of something else. Sometimes people want to, like, it's really weird. It's like, I think the church has done this where they've put people in fear, so they feel like they have to build everything. They can't work for man, they can't do this, they can't do that. And it's because they're like, you're going to miss God, you're going to miss the move of God if you don't do this right now, if you don't build this right now. And it's like, and this weird thing of, just because you have a conviction, like, why I don't need to build it. Like, I'm with human trafficking, and instead of me going to build this organization and trying to do all this and build a nonprofit, I just went and sat on a board of a human trafficking and decided to be able to speak and maybe invite them to do an open seminar where in my building at the time that, that they can come and speak and do a teaching, and invited everybody, and then shared like where some of the money that people pay me in business for consulting or however, where that goes.
Yeah.
It was just something simple like that. I didn't need to go build.
Yeah.
But guess what? If I couldn't sit on that board and do those different things and volunteer and make an impact in community or do anything, if I didn't if I didn't like go get HelloFresh to cook, or, or if I didn't like have, my house cleaned or whatever. So I totally agree. Like, it's everybody boxes everything in to be like this end all.
Yeah. And I think too, like at the end of the day, like it's what is, like, God's gonna make his plan happen whether or not we want to be a part of it. like it's an honor and a pleasure, and that we get to be a part of it. But also, if we miss the bus, there's gonna be another one coming. Like, I think one thing that I found myself getting stuck in, especially like in the beginning of college years, is like, I have to know what God has planned for me. And while he might, and for some, he might have specific plans of like, this is where you're supposed to be. I'm like, I'm limiting God if I say, like, if I take the job or I don't take the job. If I take the job, is that really God's will? Well, guess what? He's going to work through me whether or not I take the job. If I take the job, he's going to set a plan there. If I don't take the job, then he's going to set a plan there. Either way, he is sovereign over that.
I just look at it as God will course correct you.
Yeah.
If you're at the job and like 6 months in, you're like, oh man, I'm supposed to be doing this. All right, well, God, show me how I'm supposed to release and let go, and I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. And do it that way. It's kind of, I think that we just get to this point that we don't realize, like, we are in so much control that we don't let things flow. And then and trust that God will course correct us.
Yeah.
Like there were some times that you might have felt like you missed the bus.
Right.
But guess what? God knew that you were going to be going through a traumatic experience, or you were going to make a decision or whatever. So did you technically miss the bus? I don't know. Cause I bet you if you look back, you see a little bus stop sign and the bus ain't even go by. Cause God, why would he send the bus if he knew? He knows.
Yeah.
He knows that you're not. Now, you know what I mean? Like nobody's going to do like what we talked about. How many times when you told me before about the podcast, about nobody really talking about some of this stuff. How many times have you seen it? And here's the bus, right? You're thinking the bus is passing.
Yeah.
And in all reality, no, it didn't pass. He was like, I already know on February 22nd, 2023, she's going to be talking to Tanya, and this is the conversation, and this is what she's going to be doing, even working full time and all of that. Like, the bus is yours, girl. Like, you know, I look at it like that. I'm like, hey, nobody's riding my bus away.
Right.
So there is not, like, if you look at that, there could only be one health coach in the world.
Yeah.
One, right, like, you know, one activator in the world, one social media person in the world. Nobody's going to have your beautiful brain and the way that you see it.
Yeah. And also there's a lot of people. I always get myself caught up of like, okay, like, are people really going to buy my things? And then I like look at how many houses are in a specific neighborhood. Like, okay, there's a community going in that's going to have 5,000 houses. How many people are living in those 5,000? Probably 10,000, maybe 15,000 people will live in those 5,000 houses.
Exactly.
And that's a lot of people.
But I also look at it as I could listen to the same podcast, right? Somebody could do the same thing that you're doing, same talk about whatever.
Yeah.
But guess what? Because you told me about how you released cooking and that you can still do it and all that, you helped me out in such a way that changed me. It was positive. It wasn't fear-based, but it just did something to me. And then it's a bonus that you know, you got your curly hair and, and you know, and I want it, you know, so it's like, guess what? Now I want to work with you.
Yeah.
I'm almost like, okay, like, what else do you have, girl? Like, what can I get something from you? I've had people purchase things from me and connect with me because I have a pit bull.
All right.
Okay. Because I love my pit bull and, you know, and they're just like, yeah, because they feel like they're misunderstood and all that. I mean, it's the weirdest things, okay, that people will, but yeah. And I will listen. I'll have other podcasts I can listen to, but I'm going to listen to you because your heart, it can't be duplicated.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Oh, this conversation has been so good. So as I like to wrap up every single episode, like you said, you're an activator. So let's go activate some people. What can people do this week to help them implement a faith building discipline or practice into their life?
I'm going to say start small. What is practical that you can stick with? And I want you to time block it. Right? So if it's not in your schedule, you probably won't do it.
Yeah.
What do you need to do? There were times that I had to literally put it in my phone. I had to put an alarm on my phone. I put a sticky pad saying a quote or something on my bathroom mirror and on my side of my whatchamacallit, my nightstand. I had 3 or 4 alarms throughout the day when I was trying to remember to keep conscious that God is present and that he can be in everything that I do. So do what works for you. What is going to work for you? What time of day is that going to work for you? Take one thing and just play around with it. But here's the key: time block it. Give yourself the block of time. If you look at my schedule is completely time blocked, right?
Yeah.
That means I allot, and I'll share with you, I allot each and every time block. There's not one thing that you can go on here. You know what I'm doing when I'm doing it. Which means that I completely shut off media. I'm not going to miss anything. And I literally focus unconditionally on that.
That reminds me a lot of like Dave Ramsey's every dollar. So like account every dollar in your budget, whether or not you like Dave Ramsey, but account for every minute and every hour.
His app is cool.
I know, I like it too. But some people are like, do not like Dave Ramsey. So I wanted to add that caveat. But like adding, like blocking in, accounting for every hour of your day to make room for God. And even if it's setting your alarm 5 minutes earlier, a couple days a week, so you can wake up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, it's literally saying, okay, this hasn't worked for me before. What can work for me in this
Yeah.
time, right? I laugh at God because I'm like, I wish I could be a part of the 5 a.m. club because he thinks it's funny. I'm up at 4. And I'm like, can I be a part of the 5 a.m.? But there was a season that I was not feeling well and certain stuff, and I had to not kick myself because
Mm,
I had to wake up at 6:30 or 7.
yeah.
Now I would be up at 4, and then I would be like, Tanya, you're not feeling well. Stop being controlled and feel bad. Just rest. So then I
Yeah.
started getting certain things done in the evening time to prepare for the morning to make myself. So when you time block, just make sure that you're flexible. If you are like, hey, I'm going to do this project, and this project, and it doesn't work out because you're feeling off, you didn't drink enough water, or something happened to where you just need to be with God, and you're moving too much, be okay with it.
Yeah.
Because what I would do is whenever I would go back to look at my schedule, I would look back at the prior weeks, and I would actually see that there were some really big areas that I could actually say, oh, I know what was going on and why I didn't finish what I was supposed to finish.
Yeah.
And I could see when I went to bed, when I did it, it's so interesting to be able to do that. But like I said, just make it simple. Pick one thing and just put it in your schedule, and then put it everywhere you can see it. I mean, put why you're doing it, like write a scripture, put all the wonderful benefits, how you're excited about something, whatever that looks like. Plaster it everywhere, on your bed, on your mirror, change your phone picture. I don't care what you got to do, but literally live it and breathe it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just drink more water, who
Yeah.
cares?
I love it. Thank you so much, Tanya. What a great takeaway. And I will probably be setting my alarm back 5 minutes to get my butt out of bed a little bit earlier. So
I know. And then ask God, what does he want you to do at the time?
yeah, for sure. Anytime I wake up earlier, I'm like, okay, God woke me up for some reason. Like, let's go spend some time with him and figure it out. So where can people find you and your brilliance?
You can just go to tanyatenica.com. Makes it really easy. You'll be able to find all the stuff that I'm doing.
Awesome. Awesome, Tanya. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us today.
Anytime.